Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody. Call this meeting to order at October 4th, 2022 at 6 o'clock. If I can get approval of the agenda.
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye? Tonight, our invocation of pledge, Mr. Tim Ingram's going to lead us in that with Ingram resolution.
Stand, please. Father, we thank you so much for your love and your mercy. Father, we thank you for many blessings you pour out upon our families, upon our children, upon our community. Father, we ask you to guide our elected officials with wisdom and with patience. Father, give them an open ear and an open heart. Father, may all things said and done tonight will glorify your name. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ingram. If the board will allow me, we've got an unscheduled presentation we're going to have at this time. So many times, we're so thankful and we're so blessed to have people in this community that step forward and volunteer their lives, their time, put their lives on the line for each and every one of us. And it's times like this that we've got opportunity to recognize these people. Ms. Vaughn, you want to, think you've got some gifts you want to recognize
I
tonight?
do. At this time, if Bobby and Joyce Coulter could come up. And while they're walking this away, when they talk about volunteering your time and your services to Jones County, this couple right here exemplifies all of that. They made me the person that I am all those years.
Be careful.
He loved me like I was his own child too, so okay.
Mr. Bobby,
So-
she can't blame me for that, Mr. Bobby.
So, I got a proclamation I would like to read. A proclamation honoring Bobby and Joyce Coulter for their years of exemplary service to the Jones County Fire Rescue Department and the citizens of Jones County. Whereas Bobby and Joyce Coulter both joined the Jones County Fire Rescue Department in February of 1976. And whereas Bobby became a certified firefighter in 1978, and Joyce became an EMT in 1981. And whereas Bobby held various leadership positions in the department, including Deputy Director of EMA, Rescue Chief, and Assistant Fire Chief. And whereas Bobby also passed his knowledge along to other firefighters and EMT through his role as an EMT instructor and a crash victim education instructor. And whereas the county's rescue squad received recognition for outstanding performance during Bobby's tenure, including placing third in the Southeast in the international competition and being honored as the #1 rescue squad in the state by the Emergency Management Associations of Georgia. And whereas Bobby's individual accolades included being named the Chamber's Volunteer of the Year in 2001 and receiving EMA Director Award for Outstanding Services in 1993. And whereas Bobby represented Jones County on a Region 5 Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council from its inception in 1980. And whereas Bobby and Joyce retired from the Jones County Fire Rescue Department in June of 2009 after 33 years of dedicated service. Now, therefore, in recognition of Bobby and Joyce Coulter, many years of dedication to the Jones County Fire Rescue Department and the citizens of Jones County, I hereby proclaim that their exemplary service be recognized, appreciated, and celebrated. This 4th day of October, 2022, Chris E. Widener, Chairman, Shannon Wagner, Clerk of the Board. Oh, wait, hold on. I had to take my glasses off. I don't want to be old looking in the picture with you.
What's that?
I love you.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to start our planning and zoning section of our meeting tonight, and I was going to let anybody know that if you're here in opposition of any of these requests, you'll get an opportunity to speak.
Chairman, our first item this evening is a request by Jason Hunsinger. It's to rezone a half acre of a 5.76 acre parcel located at 275 Oak Valley Drive from RR to C2. This is with a conditional use to allow a storage and servicing of vehicles for a trucking company. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of this request.
Mr. Singer, are you here tonight? If you'll come up and just tell us a little bit of what you want to do, and if the board's got any questions for you.
Okay. You got the thing? Okay, so we were here, June, I think it was, to do the Ag 1 on the property that we had just purchased. And then she came back with what she was actually trying to complain about with this one. So what we're trying to do with this is just rezone half acre that we're using, that he uses for the trucks and the shop, where the shop is, so that we don't have to keep doing this, basically.
Any questions from the board at this time? None? Okay. Well, anyone here tonight opposed for this request? Anybody opposed? Mr. Board want to do?
Motion to approve, Chairman.
Second. Second. Any more discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Chairman, our next item on the agenda is a request by Vivian Floyd Etheridge to rezone from RR to C2 with a conditional use to allow a contractor trade shop. This is located at 325 Highway 49. This is the same property that we heard a few months ago that rezoned from C2 to RR to allow a double wide. She's now asking to change it back. Planning Commission has recommended approval of this request.
All right. Ms. Etheridge, you here?
When we came up earlier in the year and asked for it to be rezoned from C2 to rural residential, we had a lady that wanted to put a double wide there. Well, it fell through. After that, we decided to get somebody in to clean up the property some and put a new for sale sign. Well, when we did that, then my phone was blasting out with people wanting commercial. So we talked about it, and I said, well, let's go back to planning and zoning, because we had a person here in Jones County, lives down in Mallard's Way, wanted to purchase the property and move his business from Broadway and Macon to the site on Highway 49. And we're requesting, if you go along with planning and zoning, that we return to C2 and we can proceed with the sale.
Any questions from the board for Ms. Etheridge? None. Anyone here tonight opposed for this request? Anybody opposed? None. What's the board want to do?
Make a motion to approve C2.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Chairman, our final zoning item is a request by Michael Morgan. This is a request to rezone from RR to Ag 1 with a conditional use to allow a single wide. This is the same property that we heard back in May. Mr. Morgan asked for a conditional use to allow 2 double wides on this piece of property. Planning Commission has recommended approval of this request.
All right. Mr. Morgan? Give you the opportunity to speak.
Well, I started out, got everything cleared, got all the, paid to get the wood off, because nobody would take less than 20 acres. So I done that, and I paid to get the stumps off, and got everything approved here, and got ready to move forward. And where I work, they don't say I make enough to get the double wide, so I'm getting a single wide. There's more square footage than a double wide. for less. So that's why I'm here. And I got my mom, she's gonna put the double wide on it. As soon
Any
as I
question from the board? None? Anybody here tonight opposed for this request?
Motion to approve.
Is there a motion and a second? Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Move on tonight, we're going to consent agenda and approve for minutes. We had a work session at September 20th. Also on the 20th, we had the third Tuesday in executive session. I've had opportunity to review the minutes. If no changes, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right. All right, move on to new business, MOU, Grant Administration, Water System Improvement. Mr. Gregg, I'll let you do all the acronyms if you want to.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is for the county's grant award that was in the amount of approximately $3.9 million. This was from the State Fiscal Recovery Fund, which was through the American Rescue Plan legislation from 2021. Did the grant application and were successful with the water side of that. This would be improvements along, I believe, Graham Road and some other areas around 49. So we have a standard administration contract for projects like this one, CDBGs as well too. Dollar amount on this one is the same as for the CDBG at $60,000, and this would cover all administrative work pertaining to budget drawdowns, approvals, working with the state through that process, and any other special or general conditions that need to be cleared on the grant. This one is slightly different. There's also a resolution attached to the back that includes basically y'all saying that you approve us doing the administration work and acknowledging that we as a partner governmental agency, we can enter into this agreement as effectively an intergovernmental agreement instead of needing to do a competitive bidding process. And that's just something the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget wants documented for the record for the administration contracts. But if there are any questions, happy to answer those at this time.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second. Commissioner Kitchen, second. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Getting you out here earlier, aren't we?
Well, I'm sticking around for the next one.
Oh, okay, all right. Health Department bid award, Mr. Stanford. Stan, you're presenting that tonight. Uh-oh. You got reinforcement, hadn't you?
That's right. Yeah, heavy hitters. Thank y'all for letting me be here tonight. Will Stanford with BTBB Architects. We took bids on the health department project on September 15th. 4 bids came in, the lowest of which was 1.22 million and change. Our budget was 1.284 million, and so we actually came in under budget about $64,000. We did price a few alternates that would be additive as the project went along if we were to come in under budget, re-roofing the existing buildings, some windows. But as you know, in existing buildings and renovations, you're going to find something during the discovery period. So I would recommend that you award the contract as is at the base bid proposal to Stafford Builders, and that we watch for those things as they come up and see how much money we can utilize down the road. 270-day construction duration once we sign the contract. And that's about it. I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Do we have contingency at 10%?
We do not have a 10% contingency, so this is about 5%. That would be our built-in contingency at this point, so
Okay.
good question.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Contractor also is the one that worked on the library, right?
That's correct.
Did a good job. Okay.
Your second?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.
All right, we move on. Haunted house, Mr. Hanley.
How y'all doing? I don't know if all of you are aware of, but trying to get the approval for the haunted house and get a business license, we ran into some problems. But my first question is, do I have to have a business license in this county
Yes.
to operate a business? I do that too. All right, does anybody here remember what day the county first rented the building to the auction
Before our time, I think.
for a time?
Right. I don't
Do you,
think.
do you think, did they have a business license? Do we know? Any of that? You don't know?
Yep.
Well, you would have been here in planning and zoning, right? So they would have had to have a business license, or,
I'd have to look it up, I don't remember seeing it.
did you inspect the building at that time?
No.
Okay. So I don't know those. Have you ever inspected the building since then?
Hold on a second.
Hold on.
This is not an agenda item to quiz our planning and zoning department. What is the actual item before the board?
Well, you gave me a conditional use permit
That's correct. To
that
operate.
operate a haunted house. All right, well, Tim says we can't operate the haunted house because we don't have a business license.
Okay, let me start off. Tim, Jones County, Bibb County, Baldwin County, for me, anytime I'm doing a project, and I'm just, hear me out. Anytime I do a project, I don't care what it is, I will go to whatever planning and zoning office I need to go to and present my plans of what I'm gonna do in this project. I don't like making stupid mistakes, but I'll ask a stupid question. And time and time again, they said, there's no stupid question. So I try to make sure I got everything that is needed on these projects prior to the construction, so that we don't run into, problems. And that's what I'm getting at. I mean, it's, I don't know where we're getting, I'm just giving you a heads up as far as, I'll be honest with you, Dixie came to me at Demon Jones' concert, and I told her, I said, Dixie, I've called you twice. You haven't returned my call, and she said, I've worked it out. Now, apparently we haven't worked out. I'm trying to get some history on this at this point. I mean, that's-
Well, at this time, you can do, from my understanding, which I wish things would have been handled different, but they weren't. So, from my understanding, you can do a fundraiser. And you don't have to have a building inspection. Why, I don't know. But, just seems odd to me on that. You can do 8 nights a year as a fundraiser in the same building that you can't get a business license on. Now, sounds a little odd, but either way, that's what we've been told. And my question is, the auction changed hands probably 3 or 4 times. And for them to get a business license, the building has to be inspected. Well, Tim hadn't inspected the building. Why do we start inspecting the building when I want to get a business license? Which I understand is Tim's got a job. I'm not trying to mean anything or anybody, but I pulled over a quarter of a mile of non-compliant wiring out of that building that the county owned when the auction was going on. Nobody told me I had to do that. But me being a board certified electrician, I know it's wrong, so I fix it. I'm wondering why, or how we can get past this. The fire department, fire marshal, walks through and they inspect it, right? They don't have anything to do with the inspection?
It's based on state fire code, correct?
The state fire marshal, this building does not fall under the state fire marshal's
Okay.
jurisdiction.
Well then, what is it exactly is, I guess I'm asking is what else is holding us up from getting the business license? That's,
We did Tim. I mean, see, you and I have talked. Sam, you want to chime in? You've done some research on this. You got.
Yeah, and I talked with Dixie as well, and I think the biggest issue was the fire hazard with building new walls in a building.
well, we didn't build walls, we built petitions. There's no load bearing, nothing, it's just petitions, that's all they are. They're not walls, they're petitions.
Let me rephrase it. We built structures that weren't there originally to limit the travel path of a person going through the building. Those structures are not fire rated from what I understand, and I hadn't been there. I'm just hearing both sides. I'm hearing Dixie's side and then Tim's side of what, you know, he saw when he got there. So, I will say this board did agree and understand what the intent was and was fully on board with what their intent to do with this building was. After that, we weren't involved with it and shouldn't be. You know, we sold the building to them acknowledging that the intent was to hold a haunted house there and approved the
Conditional use.
conditional use, thanks. The conditional use of what was the intent there. But I think now we've gotten to a point of where our inspector, who is inspected by state law and by fire code, that we have to go by, has issues that you know we have to get addressed, or we have to get past them. So I think that's where we are. I do agree a little bit with the chairman. And you said it. We may have should have done things a little differently, or could have done it a little differently. Hindsight's always 20/20. But I think the thing now is to figure out. I think this board still wants to see it happen. I think it's something that needs to happen. I think it's something that's great for the county. We just got to figure out how to get there and not make it not worthwhile to do the job at all.
Yeah,
But limit liability on all parties. And I think my understanding, the petition wall was originally black plastic, is that correct? Or your divider, or whatever you put in there,
well, it's pallets.
wrapped in black
They're
plastic?
not wrapping anything now.
Oh.
But, you know, there's, there again, I guess there's no point in going back to when the auction was there, because they had all kinds of stuff built in there. They knocked walls out, they didn't have permits, they put divider doors in with no permits, they did all this stuff, and that's fine. They, you know, no problem, no harm, no foul, nobody said anything, nobody was called to investigate. We haven't done anything in there that, in my opinion, would cause any more hazards. You know, you're here to protect the public, and that's what Tim said, because the public's going to be entering this facility. Well, the public was all over the auction. You know, I just, it's just disheartening to know that we went into all this work, you know, knowing that we tried to do things right and apply for the license and get a conditional use, and we didn't know anything about that. Yeah, maybe that's my fault, because I didn't go and research what the rules were for a haunted house.
So I'm going to ask a silly question so I understand. What is it that we need to do to help him get permitted?
There are, it's quite a long answer.
So he can be operational. What's the easiest path for that? Because I think that's the goal, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'd have to comply with the building codes, Life Safety Code, NFPA 101. Primary concern I had there was the primary exit access corridor had pallets stacked up along the entire length of the corridor with black plastic draped over them. That is the primary way in and out of this building and the only way for many of the rooms. That being the case, the Life Safety Code specifically addresses these kind of facilities because of the special hazard that they present to the public.
Right.
You've got people disoriented, it's dark, and things going on, people are not aware of their surroundings. So in an emergency, we want people to be able to get out of this thing. And the building code recognizes that. In 1984, there was a significant fire, killed 8 kids, and what they did was they created a whole section of code to address these kind of buildings. And some of the things they put in there, the primary one was that the building had to be sprinkled. So putting fire suppression in the building allowed them to have the kind of elements that being described in this building, because they can help suppress that long enough. Georgia added an amendment to that and said an exception. If you limit your operation to 45 days a year and you do these items, then you can operate this kind of facility. The most significant in there with the problem we're having with this building is the Class A finish that's required on interior walls. That requires that the material be basically non-combustible, or if it will burn, it just doesn't contribute a lot of smoke, and it, you know, once you take a flame away from it, it doesn't self-sustain itself. Black plastic and oak pallets not meeting that criteria. So met out there, discussed that with Dixie. Talked about those pallets either needed to be covered with sheetrock. We talked about covering them with metal, allowing them to be able to keep them modular, but at least getting some kind of non-combustible surface to protect those pallets and protect people from them. Considering where they're put, they're creating just a significant hazard to the public. That's just one section of the code. That's the most significant part. Other parts of the code talk about occupant notification, fire watches, things like that. That could be addressed on a simpler level, smoke detection in the building. But the pallets, I think, was the biggest obstacle.
So if they cover the pallets with sheetrock or metal, that solves the problem. You had that as an option to,
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't there. I've since moved to California temporarily. I'm back and forth, working. And
thank you, Tim.
Our question would be what Dixie told me, and Tim, you tell me if I'm wrong on this, but there's like 4 code books. If we get that done, then there's gonna be another. He's gonna come through and address something else and come through and address something else. So I don't know where it ends. And, you know, if I go put $200,000 in a $50,000 structure, and at the end of the day, I'm still got 6 more items to address that we know of, you know, I can't do that. And then as far as that goes, now I'm looking at what can I do in the building if the haunted house doesn't go. I bought a building from the county that just was used and used and used and used, and then as soon as I buy it, it's unusable. I don't know where, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what to do. I put too much money into it to tear it down, and I can't put a lot more money into it to keep it going because it's not ever going to be able to be used. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss of what to do, really. I'm looking for any kind of help, any kind of answer, something definite, anything. I don't want to battle anybody. I don't want this.
Mr. Chairman. John, you want to say something? I want to add something about the pallets. Like if you go to Gypstick Fire Academy in Forsyth, the #1 material used in that fire building, it's Class A non-combustible concrete building, pallets. They burn very hot, very fast. It's a major heat source because of raw, rough-cut wood. I think it all goes back to proper planning before the project started. If correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, if they'd come in, got some 2x4s, sheetrocked, whatever was required, both sides all the way up, I think this project wouldn't be here in front of the board tonight. It would be a non-combustible Class A material on that, whether you use a metal stud or a 2x4 stud wall to make the partitions. They could have been freestanding, attached, however, but mobile in the building. But now we're here with pallets, major fire hazard. That's what most fire departments use for. They use hay and pallets for fire
I
starters.
understand that. And how do they start those pallets on fire?
However they use. I mean, it takes, every fire started with a spark. And
What can cause a spark inside my hallway where the pallets are?
Somebody with a cigarette lighter using it for I'm just thinking, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, had the structure not been altered with the hallways and stuff, we wouldn't be here either, isn't that correct?
Well, I mean, I don't know, there's other.
Well, I'm just asking Tim, I'm not trying, we're trying to get some informational stuff here.
With a change of occupancy, that triggers an inspection by my department. So when somebody applies for a building permit, then we're going to go in there and do that. And through the zoning process, that was one of the things that the board asked about was, what about, is the building ready for this? And we pointed out, no, we would have to do inspections. Part of the conditional use approval is that we would do inspections and make sure that the building was safe for the intended use.
All right, Commissioner Martin, you've got a question?
I'm solution oriented, so I want to solve the problem as efficiently as we can, following the rules and doing what's right? We sold him a building, we know the intended use. Whatever that list of items is, let's make sure he has it so he can solve the problem. And I understand what you're saying, so you don't have to do this inspection to that inspection. So it's crystal clear, right? And I don't know the operational hours. I think at this point, you're supposed to be open, right? Is that how?
Or it's
This is
It's just
Friday,
weekends.
Saturday night from like 6 to 11.
Okay, so I don't know how long it takes to address the items that Tim has on the list, but they don't sound exhaustive to me based on what I heard thus far. It's about making it safe and doing what's right. And from people who do fire stuff, I understand that as a former pyromaniac myself. So all I can say is if Tim can give us a clear direction on that for him, that way you don't feel like you're going to get the runaround. You shouldn't, because I don't know Tim to be that way. I want to help you get open because that was our intent, right? But I also want to make it safe for everybody to go in there. I don't want to go through all the other history because it's long before many of us got here on this board how that building got the way it was. But let's make it right.
Well, I agree, and I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate for them. Is I can understand the frustration of we did go through several owners during the sale barn and all, and it was our building. So perception sometimes is reality. It does not make us look good that it changed hands, but it wasn't our fault that somebody didn't apply for a permit. So when he says we tried to do it the right way and go about it the right way, and now we're kind of handcuffed because we can't do what we intended to do, it is an issue that I want to see solved. But you know, on the flip side of it, there's absolutely no way this board can assume liability of a fire issue, because if we're on the 6 o'clock news when we don't think it's safe and something happens, we all are in a world of hurt there, and we don't want that to happen. But it's a bad situation because we all knew what the intent was. We all backed him 100% to do it, and then we get to a spot where, you know, pardon my French, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. So had he not come to us and asked for a permit and just did it behind the scenes like the last 3 or 4 owners, you know, he'd be in trouble if he got caught, but at least he'd be, you know, doing it. But he did try to do the right thing. So I'm with Dayline on trying to figure out a solution for it. But we definitely got to stand with what our codes, ordinances, and state law says. So how do we get there? Is there a way that we can get a defined what do you need to do to open it up? And I know, you know, your first fear is the fire hazard. You know, how do we get past that first, I guess?
Absolutely. When I first visited the property, I had never been in a haunted house before, and I had no specific knowledge of how the codes address those types of facility. So I went out, made my observations, and spent 4 days doing code research, talking to my peers, talking to the state fire marshal's office, researching how the building code came into effect, and then coming up with a plan. At that time, I had talked to Ms. Cromer about the need for the pallets, the problem that we had there, and that I needed to come back in the building now that I had a better understanding of all the code that applied to this building, come back out, do an inspection, come up with the exhaustive list, and be able to present them to at that time. We have not gotten to that stage.
And clarify the fundraiser portion. How does it work with that? Because there's some rules.
The fundraiser has nothing to do with it. What we're talking about, a business can operate in Jones County 8 days a year without a business license. That would not circumvent the need for a certificate of occupancy. Permission to put people into that building is still there whether they have a business license or not.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right now, the pallets are still the divider wall that's in there is the biggest issue.
That was the biggest thing that caused me significant concern. There's a list of 9 things out of the Georgia law specifically tied to haunted houses that would have to be satisfied. And then just normal building stuff, exits being properly marked and that kind of thing that we would walk through, inspect, looking for that.
Basically, the state of Georgia is overruling this board on any decisions on, I mean, because, I mean, and you know, Tim's doing his job, you know. I know, and you know, in his defense, I told you, you know, I've been to Tim many times on a project in this county I've done, and I lay the project out and say, okay, look at this and tell me, you know, Tim's been one of the ones that many have told me there's no such thing as a stupid question, you know, and we've looked at things and he pointed out, because last thing Tim wants to do is have to come to you and say, you got to redo this. It's easier for Tim to be ahead of time, so I'm just, you know, putting that out there.
I would ask him to come through tomorrow or the next day and look at it the way it is now. Yeah, I'll have to do something to the walls, I mean, it's hands down, I mean, you know, if that's what it is, if I have to tear it out and redo it. You know, I'll have to do something to the walls, but
Do we
while
have
I'm
an
doing that
option?
while I'm doing that to the walls, what else am I gonna have to do?
Well, that's something he needs to get with Tim
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
That's not something we
Right,
spend
right.
itemizing in a
Sure.
commission meeting.
Can you, I'm just thought, I mean, obviously it's got to be done with walls just to keep the flow. People, is that right?
Yeah, it's a petition, yeah, just a,
It's the barrier to keep them from
Yeah.
going into the wrong area.
it's a cattle trough,
I got you.
exactly what it is.
So it's putting metal over them the quickest,
So that
cheapest
sounds great.
fix?
O ten, I mean, is O ten over that, would that work? Yeah.
Just
So if
10,
you have
yeah,
a mass,
that's
if you
the
have a
quickest.
problem.
But I know a whole
and
chicken house
massive
is, I
amount of
can
people
call right
trying
now
to
and they'll say, come
escape
get it
at
off.
one time.
Real close.
This is all
You know, just saying option, because that would, you know, that would be a quick fix on that one. But,
All right, well, I'll just start working on that, and then we'll
And
call
I-
Tim when we get there.
I want to apologize, but I just, you know, there's certain things we can and can't do. And this whole board, if you hadn't, we support you. I mean, you've talked to several of us up there, and we've done everything in the world to try to help, you know, what can we do?
Well, I would like to see it addressed in the future, and like Sam said, that, how all this can happen with a county-owned building, with all the illegal wiring that was put in it, the petitions that were built for that done, nothing was ever inspected before. If it had been, we wouldn't have been in this position we're in now either. Not only did I not do the right thing to begin with, the county didn't either, okay? I just want that known that, you know, we're trying, hold no ill will, but it's, the county's not, didn't hold up there in the bargain either, so.
Well, the county sold that building because it was a liability, because the county was not going to put the money into it to update the wiring and all of the improvements that were needed for it to be a viable building. That was known when it was sold.
Right, but it was
And you-
operated how many
you
years? But
purchased
it was
it
operated
because
how
you
many
said you
years
didn't want
as an
something in
auction?
your front yard.
How many years as an auction did the county own it? That
But
was
the
not
county has
viable,
sold the
not legal.
building, and that's why
Right.
Tim has to do his job.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we move on, playground proposal. You got a proposal tonight?
Kind of. We met as a group, me and Charles Cook and Julie and Jason, and we reviewed, we had 5 proposals. They weren't exactly apples to apples, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk to y'all about. They were considerably different based on the surface that was provided. The surface is a very expensive part of the project, and based on what kind of surface we go with, will determine the ultimate, you know, outcome of how it finishes up. And all y'all are familiar with the surface at the Morris Bank Park Playground. If we want to do that kind of surface, it's considerably more expensive, and you get considerably less elements. If we go that kind of surface, we're going to have less elements than we have at 18 at all of the new sites. So it's something that I wanted y'all to think about as a board. Do we want to spend money on the surface or add more elements? And what we wanted to do as a committee was go back to the people that put in bids and say, this is the surface we want to go with. All of y'all give us the best for this surface. Because some bid it with a cheaper grade surface, and some bid it with the pour and play surface, which is what's at 18. And so I just wanted to really get feedback and direction from y'all on which route you wanted to go and how much of a priority the surface was versus how many elements and features you get in there. But I will tell you this, that if we go with the same surface that's at 18, we won't get as many elements that are at 18.
At the inclusive.
Yeah, at the inclusive 18. Like, so if we go, when we do the inclusive at Matty Wells and at Liberty Park, there won't be the same number of features that's at the inclusive at 18 right now. So
just looking for really direction, and I feel like what we really, since the bids are kind of all over the place on what they gave us, we wanted them to be consistent based on what we want. Do we want more money spent on features or the surface? And just to give you an idea, for the 18 project, they spent, it was like 106 on equipment and 66 on the surface. So that's about the ratio that you spend for surface versus, elements. So what do y'all?
Is that poured surface for the whole area, or
Yeah.
is that for one area?
Just for the inclusive area. So like at Liberty Park, you have the big kids, the
Right.
little kids, and the inclusive. So that's
Right.
just
It's just
for,
one of the
yeah.
three
All of them, they quoted it just for the inclusive area was the only place that some places quoted the poured in place.
What's
So-
the other type of,
There's a couple different
Grounding that
options
would
that were
be in
given.
that would be
The
inclusive.
cheapest would be something called engineered wood fiber, which is basically mulch without the bark. So that was kind of the cheaper, but there was one company that also quoted shaw grass, which is some kind of like turf. But it's similar price as the poured in place. A little bit cheaper, but pretty good deal of maintenance from what I understand.
If I may, our inclusive playground at 18 was a lot of fundraiser, public-private
Yeah.
partnership that built that. And I don't remember what the actual numbers were, but I think city and county finally kicked in at the end of that one. I just wonder if that's just a thought that
Well,
we reach out for. Is that a possibility?
I was thinking that too, is that, because there's a difference between handicap accessible and inclusive, big difference. And those that use those playgrounds know that. So, yeah, that might be an option to go with accessible areas now, and more equipment, and do some fundraising to get the poured in place area around it, surface around it.
Okay. So you mean like get the elements first and then come back and do the board in place? All right. Any other comment?
Because we've
How the
retrofitted a
process-
couple of them like that, and you can do it.
Oh, you can do it? Okay.
So-
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I'm curious. I know the marketing fundraising component hasn't really been directed towards other parks per se. Would it make sense, because of what we're trying to do, to direct it specifically for those purposes?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think so.
all right.
It gives a definite fundraising cause that people would appreciate, I think.
Right. And so with that in mind, absolutely, I'm more about elements than I am the surface, because I grew up as a kid where there might not be a surface, but at least I had something to play on. And we might be in the bubble wrap generation now where kids want to bounce off the ground. But I ride bikes and the road is unforgivable. So
Yeah.
I'm more in line with going with the elements and then fundraising for the balance of the pour in place, and really challenge our marketing folks in our community to
Okay.
pitch in on it.
John, you had a.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the all-inclusive playground, we are getting some damaging now over there, and that, it hadn't been there that long, so, another, something to keep in mind.
Is the damage just general wear and tear, or is it
It's gonna be probably in the
intentional?
fall zone, usually where they land, it's
Yeah,
coming off
yeah.
something, that happens after 3 to 5 years, you're gonna, but that's what I'm saying, you cut out a square and you pour it back in place.
Right.
Gotcha, okay. Did they leave us with any of that product? We gotta negotiate better on this.
Well, it wouldn't be good now anyway, it's kinda like paint, it's not gonna be there 5 years from now.
I mean, we got people in this community that reached out to us before as far as marketing. I think it'd be time to reach out again and see.
We've got a sponsor at the dog park, and they could
That's
find a
right,
business that
sponsor,
would
the
sponsor
inclusive
it
playgrounds at
and,
each park.
and have naming rights of the park.
Yeah,
Or the inclusive
something we can certainly look
area.
into.
So poured in place on the inclusive, what about on the, so we've got several other sites, a couple at Liberty Park, Haddock, and the old part of 18 there.
And 49.
And 49, that we're gonna get some upgrades. Is the board okay with,
just a mulch?
so they've got rubber mulch, or they've got the the engineered, whatever it's called, that.
Wood fiber.
Yeah, engineered wood fiber. What are y'all's thoughts on those areas that aren't in the inclusive play areas?
Engineered wood fiber is obviously the easiest to get and the easiest to maintain, because you're just gonna come in once a year and level it out in your fall zones. Rubberized mulch is a pain in the butt to clean, and then you're gonna have a maintenance cost nightmare with poured in place or short grass or any of that. I mean, it looks good, works great, but it is high maintenance. So
Get rid of that
most school
paint.
playgrounds are gonna go with the mulch, engineered fiber. It doesn't have sharp edges on it, stuff like that, but it's not gonna bubble wrap them and bounce. They're gonna know that if they hit face first, they're gonna know they hit the ground. Don't go face first off the slide. I don't know how to tell you.
They've been telling us that for years, right?
So,
I would say go with engineered
Yeah.
mulch and everywhere except the inclusive playground areas.
and then for that, you would say go with, for initially, would you say go with that initially and then we try it?
I think it may be easier to go with some rubberized mulch in there, because I would ask them what would be easiest to pour over. Because
Okay.
with the engineered fiber, you gotta get all that out, level it out, and then pour. Rubberized mulch, if it's hot pour, you can pour it right over the mulch and use the mulch as rubber backing behind it.
All right, well, that's what we'll do.
Let's get a motion to direct them.
All right, Chairman, make a motion that they reach back out to the manufacturers to find out about the best options for the rubberized mulch options for the inclusive area, with the intent to fundraise to get that inclusive surface, poured in place surface, and using engineered wood fiber mulch on the others.
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Just
All in favor?
making sure that they're clear, they're maximizing the elements.
Well, we're gonna do it, we'll do that on the next one. All right, all in favor, aye? Aye. Commissioner Martin's gotta maximize the elements on the,
I just figured that was the intent.
Well, a friendly amendment, Chairman, to
Let's just have a second motion.
Just have a second.
Because you've already voted on
make a
that.
second motion, Chairman, that we maximize the equipment.
Second.
second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
I was trying to make it easy.
Thank y'all for the direction.
Clarify.
I knew that was
Thank you.
his intent, I read it now.
Capital Reserve Use Policy, Mr. Reservoir.
Mr.
We're
Chairman,
gonna get out of here by 7 o'clock,
I
y'all.
know we got to make it.
I'll try. So back during the budget process, we talked about the existing fund balance, what we have available there. And we talked at that time about setting aside everything over 4 months worth of reserves there for capital projects. And so the board also directed us to come up with some guidelines on when those funds might be used for capital projects. And so what you have in your packet is a resolution that would add some language to our financial policies. And basically it says that the funds wouldn't be used for recurring annual operating expenses, that they would be used for planned capital expenditures only. Those expenditures would have to be more than $50,000 on something with a useful life of 10 years or more, and that they shouldn't be used for debt service. And so that was just kind of my first pass at some guidelines on use of those funds, and just wanted to kind of throw that out there for, I mean, if y'all like them, you certainly can adopt that tonight. If you want me to make some tweaks there, I'm happy to do that.
Mr. Ford, any comment or question?
I think it's a good start, Chairman. I'd like time to think about it and look at if there's something that needs to be added or tweaked on it. This word about the 10 years life expectancy, what if we have, does that limit us from a project that, are we going by manufacturer's life expectancy, or, I'm thinking about a road or something that, just some thoughts on it.
I'm curious in terms of capital expenditures, specifically projects that we've identified already or new projects? Because it said planned, that's why I'm curious.
Yeah, that's just, I need to look at the wording on it, because I think there's gonna be, if this is a revolving account or a recurring account, if we get 5 years down the road, we're eventually gonna get to a point where we didn't plan for something.
Right.
Or either it's planned now that we've already got the account.
Because we use that language. And, you know, first thing comes to mind, obviously, is the courthouse, right? We know that there's some things that are happening. You're probably going to learn there's more things that happened. And whether it's planned or not, that's really a large capital expenditure, right? And I don't know that it's going to last 10 years on some of the things we have to do. So I agree with that language there. And my wording is just, I'm challenged by the word planned as opposed to just capital expenditures.
Chairman, if motion's in order, I'll motion to postpone and get some clarity on the language.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye. Good start.
Yeah, very good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. All right, right-of-way acquisition, McKay Road and Luke Smith.
So one potential use of some of those funds, you'll recall several months ago, we went through a RFP for a firm to help us with right-of-way acquisition on our dirt roads to kind of keep that process moving. We issued an RFP. The board selected THC as the vendor there. We've been working with them on our first two roads, which are Luke Smith and McKay Road. They've given us estimates on the cost to acquire right-of-way on those roads. One's $39,550 and the other's $96,000. That doesn't include money to actually purchase right-of-way if you had to do that. But this is going through the whole process of acquiring that. Aside from that, and so I wanted to come before you tonight to ask if you'd be in favor of using some of that money to fund these. Obviously, we just got these, and so this wasn't included in the budget process.
Any questions, comment?
No, I think we've talked about it, using funds, but I think if we clarify that, that would be a good use of something like that. Surely last more than 10 years.
I will do that in a motion?
So he wanted to use some of the funds we were going to allocate from the previous motion, right? The reserve funds? Is
Well, I
that
think we gotta make that approval before we do this, right?
Exactly.
Postpone this one. Motion to postpone, number 6 until after we revisit number 5.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right. We're getting ready to go to the election space.
Right, but before that, can I just ask the reasoning for the right of way? Because we go that way twice a day, some days. I'm just curious
Paving?
as to
Paving.
pave our whole road, Luke Smith.
Look, man.
Look, she almost, don't pass out.
I'm 10,000%.
Now you see why I told you to make sure you're gonna be here tonight?
I was thinking it's because you're gonna give us a bill.
No.
You gonna get to come up here. Y'all might as well come up here because you're next. Commissioner Wood, would you start off on the election space?
All right, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Informal, come on.
Previously, I've visited the elections office and then the storage room in the gymnasium building behind the EMA. And they're in dire need of space. It's and other functionality improvements of their facilities in their department. And so I've asked Ms. Marion to come tonight and explain a couple items and that sort of thing. We're trying to reappropriate some space near her main office and maybe move safety coordinator's office across the hall.
And the time clock.
And the time clock, postage machine, et cetera, from that area.
Put it in the corner right here. It's wired to the corner, isn't it?
So I'll turn it over to Ms. Marion at this
Okay, go
time.
ahead.
I appreciate Mr. Wood coming out and actually listening and watching and seeing what our needs are very, very, very much. What I don't want to do, the area, the space you're talking about, Mr. Cook's office and the mailroom is 240 square feet. I don't want to move ahead with that and have y'all say, okay, we did something. Needs your map, we're good. I have pictures. The area back behind EMA that Commissioner Wood addressed is much more than storage. It may look like storage,
we have to have a workable space.
Yeah.
Right now, I put them on carts to make it as compact as possible. Our carts are maybe this far apart. We cannot walk up and down the aisles. We're walking this way to try and, I mean, Vicky will be on one side, I'll be on the other, I'll be on the floor, she'll be passing me cords, trying to plug things in, charge them. They have to be maintained, they have to be programmed before every election. And Vicky's got a little bit, everything we have to do back there. I need more space to work with.
And the other
It's
part,
tight.
it really is tight, and this much space is not what we really have to go between. I think when you and I were talking, correct me if I'm wrong, you were thinking maybe the mailroom, Charles's, and then that other big room over to the side, is that what you were talking
Yeah,
about?
you know, a while back, prior to us getting the new voting machine, we had talked, I think I spoke with Mr. Risner, we talked a possibility of moving Charles across the hall, knocking that wall out where the time clock in Charles is there to give some more room, and give that whole room that way. Options of the time clock, and I think at the time we were talking about the corner office right here beside the board's office could possibly be, used to be an office and there's nothing in there right now.
My phone goes in there. My storage is in there.
Okay, so we gotta find another place for the time, where we can or can't. Time clock.
Well, the time clock has to be accessible to all departments, but it doesn't need to be around the public.
But really, the space that we're talking about, if it's just the time clock in Charles's office, is not
It's
gonna
not
really make a
going to-
difference
It's not gonna make a difference.
at all. And I wasn't sure if you were talking about the other big room that's next to that, if you walk out of the mailroom into it. And that's what I was saying yesterday, I think, that if that was what you meant, everything that's in the hallway right now, if y'all look, has to go in there, because we had to take all of that from out of there so that we can have 81 units out here to work on. So
Have
you
you
don't,
thought
you don't
about
have enough room
The Civic Center.
either way.
Dawn, you got, go ahead, you're the man,
He's got a,
you're the man with ideas, huh, so we're
Right.
reaching out to you too.
Having to think outside the
Big
box.
Silverback's got a, the office 500 square foot, but it's at the Civic Center. It's the old classroom that's in the back, they just got a conference room table. I'm sure me and Jason might could have a probation building beside the jail.
They've already denied that.
Yeah, and see, if you're talking, I don't know if that's enough space, because you measured, I don't know if that's enough space for everything to go.
No, 500 square feet is not.
So there's no, but if we did that, then we've got the back, we've got here, the storage room here, or the other room here, and then another building to have to go to. And it's difficult enough with what we do to go from here to the back behind the EMA building. That might not sound like a big deal unless you're looking at what's going on, but trust me, since May, we can guarantee you it's a whole lot of going back and forth and back and forth. So, I don't know what the answer is. I'm just very grateful, and y'all are very intimidating, just so you know that.
Yeah, right now, my equipment is in 3 different places. It's in my office, it's in the office next door, and it's back behind EMA.
Total square footage of all our places.
Other elections offices can't believe that I've got this scattered in 3 different places.
How much?
1,550 square foot.
Of all of it put together.
Question.
Yeah.
The old lunchroom, I know that portion of that is the exercise equipment in there. Is it utilized? Is there a portion of that, a substantial portion of that could be useful?
Can I have the whole gymnasium?
I'm talking about the old lunchroom area, as far as part of it
Lunchroom.
that's not used. It's,
I'm-
if you can
I
dense
can't
things a
think
little
of it.
bit.
A
The
room.
problem with that over there is the restrooms have to be accessible, and there's a changing room over there.
Right.
It's not
Back
really
corner.
much on the
I mean-
gym side.
Thinking way outside the box, so recreation built an office and a conference room and some areas on the front right-hand side of the Civic Center, right? Front room up there.
Well, they didn't actually, they moved into Ms. Vicky's office.
And they moved Vicky into a smaller office and
Yes.
put her stuff in a closet, storage closet.
So who's When you walk in the front door, all the way to the right, those two big rooms and a conference room, we had the GET committee meetings over there a couple of times. All those big rooms in the front, they were supposed.
Joy, what's her last name?
Joy Carr.
Yeah, Joy Carr. She's in that first office to your right, as you come in the door. make
Mr.
the right.
Trimmel's old office.
Mhm.
She's in there.
But on that hallway, there's a couple of big conference rooms that were classrooms.
Yeah. Like Miss
Yeah.
Stewart's and the
That's
classroom and all that.
They were using the conference room, and they were using one for,
Two computer rooms is what it was.
right.
Right.
I mean, is that something,
One of them's
if we're
available.
talking about moving stuff, and we move her over there and give her all that space, move that stuff over here?
Will's got one of the classrooms, and then the arts people's got the third classroom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
our,
but Sam's saying
community
move
art
that
is
stuff
one of
back
those
over here.
rooms.
Is what?
Our community arts and, alliance where the youth, Jones County Drama,
Yeah, they
they're one of those rooms.
Good
That is
play
their
during the
room.
last election.
Yeah.
They
They practice in the
during the
hallway.
voters voting. Well, I mean, that's their part, their place of business too. I know, that's not good, but. I think
The
ahead of
alternative
time.
is that we could build a new election office.
I don't know what space is available in different county buildings. Honestly, I don't want to lose my Mr. Jimmy out there.
Right.
I was actually very thankful when y'all turned me down to the old probation office because I don't want to be out there
By
in the middle of
yourself.
nowhere and, without this type of security that we have there. That means a lot to me. Elections are getting uglier and uglier by the day. Yeah, I would really love to stay on the government center grounds. If it's possible to find a place where I can keep all my stuff together in one building,
That
one
might be a
area.
dumb question. We got plans for this building.
No.
I know, that's what I expected to hear.
We've got a drawing, it's like a skate plan is what it is.
So a while back, 4-H had expressed an interest in moving out of their space and maybe going to the Maggie Califf campus. I went over there and met with the superintendent and Brennan Jackson. Looked around there. There's just a lot of space there, and it needs a lot of work. Since those initial conversations, we've talked a little bit more about the pre-K site. And there's some space in there that a while back they let the library use when the library was doing a renovation. The health department's going to move in there while they're undergoing a renovation. And so 4-H and I are going to go visit the superintendent and that site and see what possibilities are there. That would open up, that portion of the building, which I think is about 2,500 square feet. Donald, do you have any feel? I mean, I'd have to.
Like, hang on.
So
It's probably 25. I've been there just
That's a large area.
It is.
It's a large area.
All right, so can I just throw this out there? Okay, so we got Maggie Califf that we could have for a community center. Move Boys and Girls Club over there. Move EMA over there. Move 4-H over there. What's the other one we thought of? An open gym for Parks and Recreation. And just a community organizational space. 4-H wouldn't just be over there by themselves. It would be a whole complex of the community center for Califf Middle School. That opens up how much here at the government center where we're looking for space at.
But no, on the EMA's defense, those vehicles are the neighbors down MLK or whichever street they choose to leave. They're gonna get tired of the sirens, as many med calls or fire calls that they run. And EMA needs to be centrally located near major highways for accessibility during an emergency, because seconds count. So I don't know if that would be a good fit for EMA. All the others you mentioned probably be very good, but EMA needs to be
And it's such small access on those roads.
Those roads are narrow.
My buses load on them every day. I mean, that's a foolish one there for me.
Well, I mean, you got superheroes, so.
Yeah. And those roads were fine for two buses to pass by each other on all day.
I'm just saying in an emergency situation, you know.
And the storage, but we would have to find somewhere for us to go.
I don't think it's large enough to really
Still,
make a whole lot of difference. I mean, you need,
I
you
think we
need
really
significant.
need to just to sit down and create a plan. If it's gonna move one or two departments, because there's an obvious need. I mean, she's been telling us for
Years.
as long as I've been here, this space is not big enough, and we do see it every time, every election we see. They're stacked in the hallways, you can't get by them, we get the complaints of, trying to get in here, and all I hear is the poor workers are doing everything they can do, but we just don't have, I mean, we know the problem's there. I think we need to figure out a plan. I can't help you there, you're gonna have to get your own poll.
No, we got poll work. No, not
Yeah.
poll work.
I need a
The
motion,
poll
so
workers.
if I can get a motion to postpone,
I'll do better than that, Chairman. Make a motion to postpone with the acknowledgement that we're going to devise a plan to create more space.
out of next meeting. No, I
don't think
think-
You're gonna have a work session?
We definitely
Well,
have a work
nothing's gonna
session
happen
on
in
it.
5
And we're not gonna have time to talk to you, even if you do by the next meeting, so.
all right.
And you can blow up plans and
Yeah.
stuff for a
I'll
work
second
session.
Y'all can work on plan, get with school board, whatever we need to do to see what we can maybe work out. I got a motion, got a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank y'all. We're gonna get it.
Can I have one thing to this conversation?
And can I sign it?
Because Mr. Wood did ask me to supply y'all with a bullet point of my needs. I've not done that. All my time has been dedicated, all my spare time has been dedicated to work. I turned my computer off at 9:30 last night. I am raising a teenage granddaughter. I don't know how many of y'all have raised teenagers on the first time around, and I'm getting kind of old for it the second time around, but I'm doing it. I cannot effectively raise this child from 166 Industrial Boulevard, Government Center. I need to have my butt at home to know where she is. With that being said, I can't do my job in 40 hours. There is no way. I would need to clone myself a couple times. As of the first of this month, I have accrued 683 hours of sick time. I have been maxed out on vacation time since April, 560 hours. So all this time, I can't even accrue additional vacation time. All this extra time I'm putting in, it's just me giving y'all my time. I'm getting burnt out. I don't mean to sound threatening, but I'm not willing to do this anymore. I'm just not willing to keep giving 150% and not getting something for it. Besides, I'm glad I got a job, because you know what, I can get a job somewhere else. And putting in this many hours, I'm making a whole lot more money. So if y'all would consider, either during election times, put me on hourly, or let me cash out a couple hundred vacation hours to make it worth my time to keep on going. Because right now, my family's not coming first, and that doesn't sit well with me.
Okay, do.
Yeah, y'all
And
can't
it's
do
not
anything
just-
with that, it's not on the agenda.
Well, yeah.
But we did hear it. And can you get bullet points for the work session of your needs?
I'll pencil that in about 3 a.m.
If you do 1 minute a day between now and the work session.
It'll be there.
all right.
It will be there.
All right.
So we'll know what
Thank
you
y'all.
need.
And I just want to tell you, like
Department
my,
heads, all right, we got a, department heads. Anyone like?
I think that means we're done.
Guess what? You do have visitors' comments, though.
Who got it? Department heads first.
Just want to let the board know that tomorrow morning, Warren Associates is meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully next week, they're going to start pulling windows at the courthouse. So if you drive by and see
Next
white-
week,
white-
I hope the trial is over before we start,
Well,
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah, they need to make sure the murder trial's over before they do that.
Yeah, they're coordinating with.
Well, that's part of what Marty is coordinating everything, so.
It?
So we're excited, yep.
I just want to say thank you. Donna will be, after his meeting in the morning, we're we're gonna start renovating the water department's office.
Great.
A lot of inter-department working since I've been here, and I appreciate that. Parks, Rec, Public Works, environmental, building maintenance, everybody works really well together. In my 7 months I've been here. That's it.
Good.
Thank you.
This afternoon, I sat through a webinar. There's another pot of ARPA money that's coming down. This is the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund. And we're eligible for that because we have lots of federal land in the county. We're going to get $145,000 over the course of 2 years, and it can be used for any governmental purpose. So y'all can start pondering on that.
Splash pad!
Greg Boyke mentioned to me earlier, if you're interested in doing CHIP or CDBG, now is the time to let them know. So if y'all want to
Yes.
put that on a next agenda to discuss, I'm happy to do that.
Yes.
So that's all I have.
All right, citizen comments, anybody tonight? Commissioner, you been gone?
Look, I'm happy to be back for a really short period. Got a client that's got me traveling all over the place, and I enjoy it. It's good work, but I miss you guys. But I'll be on the phone.
All right, Commissioner Bowman?
Nothing, thank y'all.
Cameron's got a quick thing, just to be on to clarify, I've been doing some purchasing of property around the county, and I've got several county employees that are residing in these properties, so I just need to let you know that I've got county employees renting from me now, so that way we've got a transparency going
As
on.
long as you just recuse if anything comes up on the agenda.
That's it,
back
I just
out.
wanna let you know, I think, look, I'm gonna have 3 county employees renting from me here. All right,
You got any other vehicles?
nothing empty right now, go ahead.
Okay. Jason, thank you for bringing up about the community block grants and this other grants available. I do have, is District 2, and I'm sure District 4 has many needs for, I've had many citizens reaching out that need that process and help in their neighborhoods and their individual residentials. Thank you for getting the light taken care of at the golf course. Parking lot's a lot brighter, and I do look forward to the starting date on the Haddock lights in the 4 corners, because it is dark in Haddock, and it's getting dark earlier now. So I look forward to that project getting started and finished.
Mr. Kitchen, you work with St. tonight?
No, sir, no comments.
All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Hey, it said where?
678 Lake Park Road, Flow Village.
I'll,
Where the heck is Flow Road at?
That's in Indian Springs.